In today's Elden Ring video, we'll take a look at an incredible Holy Mage build that makes use of one of the most overlooked weapons right now in the game. It's capable of launching very fast Holy Discs with amazing auto-tracking, excellent damage, and a very low FP consumption for the damage that it deals. You can also start this build quite early in the game and it will definitely carry you way over level 100, so with that in mind, let's dive right in. But before we jump in, I want to give a huge shout out to Square Enix for sponsoring today's video. If you like the Final Fantasy universe and want to play it on your mobile phone, then Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier has you covered. It's the first RPG battle royale of its kind, completely free to play, and its Season 2 update is officially out now. In Season 2 you get access to a brand new combat style called the Dragoon, a spear-wielding, high-jumping class capable of dive bombing and dealing very high damage, which you will absolutely need against Bahamut, the new big bad boss that will start roaming the sky at the start of each match and will periodically unleash powerful mega flares. But teaming up with others will give you an easier time defeating it, which will reward you with his summoning materia. This one is different than any other summon in the game, letting you transform into Bahamut himself and freely wreak havoc on anything below you. So totally check out the game using the links down below. You can also get some free premium items if you log in right now, and I'll give another huge shout out to Square Enix for sponsoring today's video. Now this build is going to make use of the Halo Scythe, and as I've said, this is one of the most overlooked weapons right now in the game. It comes in with a unique skill called Miquella's Ring of Light. It's basically the same one that the Clean Rot Knights would use against you to launch those holy discs. Yeah, you already know how amazing these are at auto tracking. Well, you can actually make these to deal very high cumulative damage. They have some amazing cast speed, so you can pretty much spam these one after another, but most important, the FP consumption on this is absolutely abysmal. You will literally run out of stamina way before you even consume a quarter or maybe even a half of your current available FP with a decent build. So the way you get these is pretty much from the Clean Rot Knights in the middle of the swamp over in Caelid. It's the same one you use to also farm that Clean Rot Knight armor if you already did that. So go ahead if you didn't get it already and just farm for this Scythe because it's absolutely amazing. Now it also comes with some other benefits. It also has some 55 points into bleed build up, but most important here is obviously going to be that holy damage. This is why you're going to want to pump as much faith as possible with this build. If you're around level 100, that would be about 55 into faith if you also use Marika's Source Seal. Otherwise you can just go 60 or maybe even more if you have points to spare. For everything else, I've invested some points into vigor. It definitely helps to have a bit more HP. Now mind you, definitely don't need as much as I did right here. I thought that this would be a heavy FP consumption build, but you don't even need those 35 I put into it. I'm pretty sure you can make do with 25 to 30, or yeah, just 25 if you use the Source Seal. You would maybe want to invest a little bit more into endurance and definitely switch those around, since endurance will deplete way faster with this than your FP ever will. And of course also meet the minimum requirements for strength and dexterity. In this case I've put about 13 and 16 respectively. Now the way you want to play with this is keeping your distance. These discs have an amazing range on them. I'm pretty sure that there's no other spell in the game, bar a couple of exceptions, that can reach an enemy from this far away. It's definitely way further away than any incantation and most sorceries right now in Elden Ring, which is why you're going to want to make use of that and just keep enemies at a distance. They will die way before they even reach you. In trash mob situations, this means picking off targets one at a time, but you can definitely like take groups of enemies super quickly by quickly switching targets and one-shotting them one after another, like one of these situations. Obviously this is assuming that they don't block the incoming damage, but usually most enemies die in one, no more than 2 shots. In terms of boss encounters, you usually have a wind-up time at the beginning where you can unleash a ton of these attacks before the boss even reaches you or reacts. This is the time that you will want to just throw everything you can at it, and usually this means you get at least 50% of its HP before it even gets a chance to react. If it does react, if it's faster, or if it's just impossible to get rid of it, obviously like any other caster you will want to use some of the more tanky summons. Like the Crystallian is definitely a early acquisition and something that will definitely help you even in the later stages. In terms of the items, as always, if you want to min-max it and get the most amount of attributes, you will want to combine this with item pieces that give you boost to those attributes. In this case we want Faith, so the Halictree Knight Helmet gives you additional 2 points into Faith, and you can get this pretty easily from a chest inside the Halictree area, or you can get the Ruler's Mask a bit earlier, but it's it's only going to give you 1 point into that faith. In terms of the talismans, we will make use of the Shard of Alexander. This one gives you about a 15% increase to your skill damage, and in this case that's that holy disc. Another one is going to be the Holy Scorpion Charm. It gives you about 12%, 12.5% increase, so it's going to be quite noticeable when you stack these one on top of the other. And finally, it's going to depend on you if you want to use the Ritual Sword Talisman, but this one provides another about 12 to 15% damage increase, but only when your HP is at the maximum. So if you get damaged, you're going to get this buff removed. But it's amazing if you want to like stay back, not get damaged, and if you can pick off the enemies before they reach you in a reliable way. And obviously Marika's Source Seal for these additional stats / attributes. If you want to meet those requirements way faster, it's definitely an option. Or you can also use Radagon's Source Seal instead of the Ritual Sword Talisman when you can't stay back and not get damaged. But since we were on the subject of damage, you also want to preemptively buff your damage and your defenses before every fight, and the best one is going to obviously be the Golden Vow spell. This is something that lasts for a very long time, so right before entering a boss room or going into an enemy area, you can just throw this on your character. It lasts for 80 seconds, which is pretty long, and it also kinda removes some of the negative effects that you got from some of the talismans, especially the Source Seal. You can kinda bypass that by increasing your damage reduction by another 10%, so it kinda makes up for reducing your defenses. Most important though, it grants another 15% damage increase in PvE or 7.5 damage percent increase in PvP, so it can definitely be quite useful. At the same time, you can also further buff your holy damage if you get the Holy Shrouded Cracked tier for some additional damage on the holy attacks, and you can also combine this with a Cerulean Hidden tier for infinite FP for about 10 to 15 seconds. You do get this as well as some bunch of other like buffing potions from the Minor Earth Tree mini boss right here in Eastern Liurnia. It's actually pretty decent, and you can obviously combine it with the Golden Vow spell. On a final note, I also want to address some of the weaknesses of this build. There are definitely a couple. One of the most important being the fact that if enemies do get close to you and you are in the middle of a cast, you will get interrupted and the disc will not unleash. So you can still maybe disengage and follow up with an attack even if you're close range, but usually this results in mixed situations. Yeah, the tracking is still going to be good, and oftentimes I did notice the disc hitting the enemies in the back even though I overshot them, but it's not something you want to rely on in some of these tougher combat encounters. At the same time, if you happen to fight in a very tight spot or in a catacomb, you're not going to even reach the target, since it seems that the trajectory of these discs goes into a curved kind of path at the start before it actually goes into a straight line, so you're going to pretty much hit these obstacles or even walls way before they even reach the enemy. But it's a faith build, so this means you can pretty much use any of the other faith weapons we covered before, point at which you can definitely switch for something that's more well appropriate for these kinds of situations, and then keep the Scythe for the open areas and for bosses, or when you simply don't want to consume a lot of FP but still want to deal a lot of damage. This is it with the build. Totally let me know down below what's your opinion of the weapon, and I'll see you guys in the next video.